Who do you think determines which emotion gets wired to that event and what conclusion becomes of that event? Who do you think's in charge of that? It's you. You get the opportunity to wire the emotion. So if you want to choose a negative emotional pattern, an NOS to it, go ahead, but it's not going to serve you. Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Hello, everybody. We are broadcasting from the beautiful Pocono Mountains in eastern Pennsylvania. And today, I'm going to get a little nerdy with you. But stick with me. I guarantee you, by the end of this episode, some of you listeners are going to be thinking, oh my goodness, I just made a massive breakthrough. I finally understand why I do certain things the way I do. I finally understand why I might be not excited about going on sales calls or about running a business. Just hold on with me here. This changed my life. This is what I'm going to share with you today. And I'm hoping it has a lot of good impact for you. So first of all, when we're running businesses, we are constantly facing new challenges all the time. A lot of what we're going to call events, right? Events happen in our lives. Things happen. A client is either upset or really happy, or a project goes really well or doesn't go really well, or an employee or a team member has an issue or a beef with somebody else or you or one of your policies or one of your systems or lack thereof, right? We're going to call them events. Like those things happen. And as humans, this isn't just a business owner thing, but as humans, we wired a meaning to that. So we go from the event plus the emotional meaning. So if that employee walks out on Friday because they're sick and tired of working for you, immediately, whether you're conscious or unconscious of it, your mind puts together an emotion, some meaning to that. Like, why did they do it? Maybe it's because they're just lazy, and all kids are lazy now and they just don't want to work. They want free stuff. They want to be YouTube stars. Maybe that's your conclusion. Or perhaps, I don't make enough money to be able to pay these people. I'm really suck as a business owner. I wish I could offer my employees better pay and better opportunities so they'd stick around longer. Or you know what? I'm just not meant to be a business owner. I'm meant to really just kind of do my own thing with nobody around because I just can't get this whole thing together. So the equation here we're going to talk about today is event plus that emotional wiring, whatever emotion that's being tied to it, conscious or subconscious or unconscious as well, equals a conclusion. Some kind of true, quote unquote, fact that you've surmised from whatever that event might be. Now, a lot of times when I say fact in air quotes, the reason why I say that is because that's what the mind wants to think, that it's right. We all want to think we're right. Now, I'm going to be spinning this back around all the way full circle back to sales. So just bear with me here. So this whole theory was proven by Richard Lazarus back in 1991 with one of his deep papers. And he calls this idea cognitive appraisal theory, or CAT for short. And basically he's saying emotions don't directly cause the event themselves. It's caused by our appraisal or our interpretation of the event. So that appraisal then leads to an emotional response, which influences our conclusions, beliefs, and behaviors. Now, again, I'm totally going to get a little nerdy with you this week. Bear with me here. It's going to make a lot of sense as we go forward. Now, the first thing we're going to do when something happens, an event happens, let's just say here's a great example for you. If somebody cuts you off in traffic, you immediately, based on which operating system you're running on in your brain. What I mean by operating system, is it a negative operating system? Everything is bad. Woe is me. The whole world sucks. I can't catch a break. Or are you running on a positive operating system? Oh, this is an opportunity. I can't wait to be challenged again. Even if I'm not winning, quote unquote, I'm still learning. That's the difference between a negative operating system and a positive operating system as we're running here. And we have to be very, very careful as sales professionals, as business owners, or as team members to know which one we're playing in. Because if we're playing in the wrong sandbox, if we're playing in the negative operating system because you're just having a rough time or you're going through an emotional challenge or even a challenge at home or a physical challenge, whatever it might be, that emotional residue comes out and shows up in your reactions and your interactions with your customers when you're out on sales calls and designs and all of that. So we have to be very, very good and very aware of how we're showing up. What's our state? How are we showing up? Are we showing up very positive? Or are we showing up more negative? Or are we in a negative state, but just putting a positive face on, a mask on, which clients can smell right through? really, where are you when you go out and meet with customers? That's what's going to be important about our conversation today is becoming very aware of yourself, or at least more aware of yourself, and find out exactly where you are in those boxes when you go out to meet with customers. So if somebody cuts you off in traffic, do you interpret that as an intentional insult? If you're in a negative operating system and you're thinking, holy moly, that guy just cut me off, you immediately go to anger. It's a very common response pattern, right? The event was somebody cut you off. The immediate emotional wiring is anger. And then the conclusion is, all these people from New Jersey can't drive, or, women shouldn't drive, or blah, blah, blah. You can fill in the blank, whatever kind of crazy stuff that goes on in people's heads, beliefs that they might have. So we have to be very, very aware that those things are going on, that those triggers, you may go to a supermarket and open a door for somebody and they walk through and they don't say thank you. And if they don't say thank you, do you immediately go to anger? Like, oh my goodness, they're so disrespectful. They don't even respect the fact that I opened the door for them. I can't believe people are like that these days. Oh my goodness, that's a negative operating system. That's where your mind is looking for faults and failures in others in order to make you look better. So the question really becomes, why did you open the door? Was it to get the validation from somebody and say thank you? Or is it because it's just the right thing to do? That's a question you have to think about for yourself. The other option is here, if you interpret someone cutting you off in traffic as an accident, or you're thinking, you know what, maybe this person is rushing to get to the hospital. Perhaps that's the first thing you think of with the event. The event happens, you get cut off. Your immediate emotional wiring to that is, you know what, they might be going to the hospital. They might need to be somewhere like really quick. And I'm not in that big of a hurry today, so it's no big deal. So you have either concern or compassion for them. Same event, different emotional wiring. Can you see where I'm going here? The conclusion, the event plus emotional wiring equals conclusion. The conclusion is different. Same event, different conclusion. Two people can see the same event and have completely different conclusions from that based on where their mind is at that moment, where their heart is at that moment. This is so important, specifically as business owners or team members are out there trying to serve people, trying to be, meet your sales goals and things for the year. If you're stuck in that idea that somebody emotionally insulted you and intentionally insulted you by cutting you off, you're going to take that same emotional, that same emotion into your meeting with a customer. So if you had two people like that on the way to the meeting, you're already going in wired up and waiting for some kind of a negative operating system response. Hope this is making sense to you guys, because this idea really shifted how I started to think about how I was showing up. Am I just showing up and just kind of playing it off and shooting off the hip each and every time? Or am I going into meetings, going into business as a leader with purpose, intentionality, making sure that I'm being very intentional with my time? So when it comes for this is what Lasford discovered when he was going through that there's two key stages of this appraisal or interpretation. First is your primary appraisal, which is the event is either a threat, a challenge, or irrelevant to your well-being. So an example would be, the threat would be, this could hurt me at that intersection. Then you get fear, anxiety, which could come out as anger. Or you end up with a challenge like, oh, wait a minute here. How can I slow this down and try to understand what's going on to get the compassion side of things? Or potentially, even in other situations, it could be a good question is, how can this help me grow? There's an excitement, determination, a hope that comes from that event. Secondary appraisal or interpretation is, do I have the resources or power to cope with this? Do you immediately go into, I can handle this with confidence? Or, oh, woe is me, I'm a victim, I'm helpless. Despair or panic starts to happen. I hope you guys are starting to pick some of this up, because I'm telling you, this stuff can change the way you see everything that happens around you. Because in life, either things are happening to you or happening for you. In business, things are either happening to you or they're happening for you. This is a huge separation of the difference between successful people and people that are victims, that are constantly finding things wrong with the world and wrong with people and wrong with their clients, versus people who are always looking for opportunities to be able to serve at a higher level, because they know that people inherently most are good. And we just have to find that, even if they don't emote that in the beginning. So when I say all of that, imagine you go out and you fail your biggest sales pitch you've ever gone out to, your biggest project you've ever designed. You go out and meet with that customer, you show them the design, and the whole thing falls through. I've had it happen to me many times, and I was not very aware of my emotional wiring back then, but still, the whole thing falls through and you start beating yourself up. Is that what you do? Do you go through and The appraisal of this, the interpretation is that this is a threat. This proves that I'm no good at sales. I'll never get this thing right. I'll never do big projects. Why do I even own my own business? I suck at this. If anybody knew how many times I swing and miss, holy moly, they'd laugh at me. Is that your inner dialogue? Or is it more of a challenge inner dialogue? Like, wow, this is great feedback. They didn't go forward, but I learned a lot from that sales meeting. I learned that I can't do A, B, and C. I learned that I need to manage budget better in the beginning. Is each one of those quote unquote failures, is each one of those a challenge to get better? How do you see it? It's the only question you can answer. Listeners, how do you see when you get feedback like that from a customer? Do you immediately beat yourself up? Or do you think, wait a minute here, I accept this challenge. I need to get better at this. The emotion in that threat side of things, the one where I'm no good at sales, is shame and fear, and you're like just mad and anger, all those kinds of things, where the challenge side is motivation and curiosity. Well, wait a minute here. If that client, I had him all the way up until we got to the design, and then when I presented the pricing for the project itself, that's where I lost him. Okay, how can I get better at this? How can I become better and more aware? How can I understand what my customers need, want, and desire earlier in the process, specifically around budget? Let's use that as an example today. It becomes a motivation and a curiosity on how to make it better versus the whole world sucks and I'm a victim. Hope this is starting to sink in, guys. Because the conclusion could very well be, if you don't think you're a good salesperson, you're never going to be good at this thing called business, your mind tells you, well, you should quit. Why are you doing it? Makes no sense. You're never going to be good at this. Remember, everybody else is better than you. They went to school. They had lots of money to start this. They don't have the debt you do. They don't have the pressure you do. That's a negative operating system mindset under the threat, right? But if you're thinking more challenge, you're thinking like, oh, wait a minute. Let me learn something new and let me try again. Let me try something I haven't tried yet in the past. Try something new this time. This is what has been the crux of my personal success in life. When I started out in outdoor living, I had no idea how to do patios or water features. I had no idea how to do lighting. I had no idea how to build a deck. I had no idea how to do a lot of these things that we eventually started doing daily. And the reason why we could do that, because if I went into the threat position, when I did the interpretation and said, you know what, sorry, like every time somebody asked me for some kind of new feature in the backyard, I immediately say no, because I don't know anything about it. And I'm not going to put any risk out there. I definitely don't want to, encourage any kind of clients being pissed off or me having to learn something new. That's called a fixed mindset, by the way. That's where you already know everything and you don't need to know anything more. That's kind of the framework of how those people live. Or you have what's called a growth mindset, where you keep thinking like, what if? How could I learn that? You start asking better questions. Instead of, why would I do that? I'm not going to risk this and lose money. You end up thinking, well, wait a minute. How could I learn how to do this in order to make money? How could I learn how to do this so I can do it really, really well? So we have to be very, very much, Tony Robbins says the best. He says we have to be gatekeepers of our mind. We have to stand there and watch the stuff coming in and out of it. The events that are happening, being very careful on how we're wiring the emotion to those events so that we don't come up with bad conclusions that'll hold us back. And when I say bad conclusions, what I'm really referring to is conclusions that make us less valuable to the market, less valuable to ourselves, to our God, to everything, right? If those are negative thoughts that are going through your head when these things happen, if it's a threat and I'm no good at this, I can't believe I ever tried this. Who am I to think I can actually run a business and be successful? We all have those thoughts, listeners. You're not the only one. But I will say you have the opportunity to slow down and reassess how those emotions, that emotional wiring is tied to a conclusion. You have the reins on this one. You have the ability to become more aware of how fast you're going to the negative or the positive, and how that could be a benefit or a detriment, and how you interact. And as I like to say, respond to people, or are you more reacting? Reacting's emotional, just shooting off the hip. Whatever you feel in the moment is how you're out there connecting with people. Or are you more responsive, which means you think about it. You go in with purpose. You understand exactly what needs to be done. You've thought it through versus just reacting. Now, I know in business, we don't always get the benefit of having weeks and weeks of time in order to decide something. But I will say from experience that the more you do this, the more you become aware of yourself and how you're showing up to your sales meetings, how you're showing up as a designer, how you're showing up to all of these things, the more you can start working on this. And it's a fun process. It's a process that you start to take a look at how you're wired inside, and you realize that most of what we do, over 50%, listeners, over 50% of how we respond or react in our environment is habitual. They're patterns. That means that this is just how we've always done it. We're not even conscious of it. We just do it. It's like brushing your teeth in the morning or at night, or drinking your coffee, or going for a walk, or doing whatever you do habitually. How often are you fully aware of exactly where you are in space and time when you do those things if you've done them so many times? Driving back and forth to work, if you've been doing it for years, do you really pay attention to every single detail, or are you kind of on like tune it out mode? Turn on your favorite podcast, hopefully this one, and you're cruising along, and next thing you know, you're at work or at a friend's house or at an event, whatever it might be for you. 50% of our lives are habitual, which means that we aren't thinking. And the other 50% we're thinking. So my question to you is, how many things that you're doing habitually, again, patterns, are actually serving you versus not serving you? This is where awareness starts to kick in. When you start to become more aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it and being purposeful with it, you show up differently. You become the leader that you've always dreamt of being. That's the benefit of all this. So everyone, I'm glad you stuck with me so far through this. I know I got a bit nerdy today, but I know how powerful this could be if you would just let some of this into your heart and start thinking about it. Start looking at how you're interpreting events that are happening. If a customer says no to you, what is your immediate response internally? What's the voice telling you inside? Not the stuff you want to tell the world, or how you want to put on that mask and smile like everything is okay and we'll just get the next one. What's going on deep down inside? Because that's going to direct how you're going to show up in the future. And here's the beautiful part of all of this. So beautiful. Who do you think determines which emotion gets wired to that event and what conclusion becomes of that event? Who do you think's in charge of that? You're right, listeners. It's you. You get that opportunity. You get the opportunity to wire the emotion. So if you want to choose a negative emotional pattern, an NOS, to it, go ahead, but it's not going to serve you. And if you've got a paved road to thinking negative of people and situations, it's okay. It's okay. I used to do that too, until I became aware and said, you know what? I choose not to do that anymore. If I see one negative thing, if somebody does something, somebody cuts me off in the road, and I would get mad, I'd get frustrated before when I was younger. And then I stopped and I said, you know what? Each time I get mad like that, I got to come up with 3 positive things that could be. There's some better reason to this. So taking that negative operating system and kicking it in the nuts, if you will, judo flipping it and saying, what are 3 things that could be good reasons why this person cut me off? And I'd think like, all right, maybe they got to go to the hospital. Maybe they got to get to a loved one, or maybe they just had a really hard day and can't wait to get home and get into the tub or do whatever it might be if that makes them happy. So you know what? I've got some time. It's not that big a deal. Let's let them move through. Let's let them go. Immediately inside, that frustration, that anger that I felt in them before disappears. It's like you're letting the air out of a balloon. It feels better. It's emotionally more balancing. You stay on your surfboard, right? You stay on your emotional balance, and you don't get razzled by things like that. And then you get 2 phone calls of employees that aren't doing the right thing, or contractors that you've hired that aren't doing the right thing, or possibly a customer that wants something different than you originally planned for them. And all of a sudden they're changing everything. And that frustration immediately goes, if you're running the negative operating system, as a threat, thinking like, oh my goodness, that guy just cut me off. This guy now wants this from me. This customer's changing their mind now. And then you start sliding down this negative operating slope. Right? It's a challenge, listeners, each and every day to fight that. It's a challenge each and every day to find the positive in the world. But I guarantee you, because I've experienced this, I guarantee you that when you do it long enough, your mind can't tell a difference between negative and positive. All it knows is how you've paved the road and which way you go. So you have to be very much those guardians of your mind. You got to be watching what's coming in and out. Because if not, sales can feel like rejection. Because I'm telling you, there's not many other things you can do in life that you have to face rejection on a daily basis like you do sales. And sales, not just selling things to your customers. I'm talking about selling ideas to your team, or selling ideas to your family, or selling ideas to anybody else. Those are all sales things. And you know what? When it gets put down or clients don't pay, that can feel like rejection. Or you can challenge that rejection feeling and say, okay, great. I just did another rep. It didn't go through. What did I learn? How can I be better than I was yesterday? How can I take what I've learned today and turn it into power? I'm not a victim. How can I turn it into power? Power in the sense of how can I turn it into energy that I can learn from and serve better in the future? That's what got me out of that pattern in the early days of my life, and has forged an incredible trail of understanding that when things happen in an event, they're happening for me, not to me. And I have the power to wire the emotion that I see fit, mostly from the positive operating system. I'm not perfect. Mostly from the positive operating system. And from that, everything in life becomes simpler. The stress, the anger, the frustration, the overwhelm goes down because I am now rewiring the way I see things. So if you can take the idea of everything is a threat, woe is me, and flip that, judo flip that to, wow, this is a great challenge. What could I learn from this? Let me try that again. It'll change everything you do in your life, specifically in sales and in business. Because again, you're going to face rejection every day. I don't care who you are, whether you're the top performing sales professional that you've ever seen before, or whether you're just starting out. Everyone faces rejection in sales. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to do a woe is me victim mindset and constantly beat yourself up, end up drinking or going out and trying to party it away, or just ignoring it completely or putting that fake smile on? It's just a mask, knowing deep down that you just don't have the skills yet to do it? Or are you going to approach this with a curiosity mindset and that'll be your motivator? Curiosity. Wait a minute here. This didn't work, but next time will be different. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to hire somebody. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to go to a seminar. I'm going to do something to push myself forward so I can learn from what I just got into yesterday. That's a growth mindset. And growth mindsets are what the successful, powerful businesses in a market, that's what they're run on. A growth mindset, not a we've always done it this way mindset. Everyone sucks. The world's changed. The economy sucks. The president sucks. Blah, 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 blah. Tariffs suck. Everybody's got a complaint. My question is, you're going to take those complaints and just leave them as they are and then act like you have no power over them? Or are you going to use them as opportunities and fuel to forge your new future? Because the only difference between now and a successful future you've always envisioned when you started your business is the 6 inches of real estate between your ears. So much of growing a business is mindset, and nothing more powerful than sales to bring that out in somebody, because you got to go in there with confidence and you either believe you can or you believe you can't. It's very, very simple. And if you don't believe you can and you smile and act like you can, and a customer will smell it a mile away. So I say all of that, and hopefully somebody out there listening says today is thinking, you know what? Okay, well, event, then we have an emotional wiring equals a conclusion. I'm just going to watch myself today and be aware of the events that are happening, and then watch how my mind starts to fill in the blank of the meaning, because that's what happens. Most of us, including myself in the beginning, I was completely unconscious. What does this event mean? And what is the conclusion I'm going to draw from it? Once you're conscious of this pattern, holy moly, you can adjust this like crazy. You'll take that paved road to your old patterns, potentially negative operating system. If you have a paved road there and a dirt path to positive operating system, that positive mindset that this is a motivation and a curiosity, it's okay. It's a start. Awareness is the first step. Once you become aware, the next step to do that is to start recharging that path, knocking down the trees, making it wider, taking that dirt path and turning into a paved path, and letting the old paved path, the asphalt break up, the weeds start to grow through it, and it start to disappear. And that happens through discipline. So listeners, thank you for coming with me for this journey this week. I hope some of this has landed on you and opened up your heart to what's possible, the fact that you are not broken, that there is nothing about you that can't be grown and adjusted. All or most of our suffering comes from patterns that we're stuck in, and all of those patterns can be broken. They're just patterns. Even though it might not seem that way, they are just patterns. So this is the one I wanted to share with you today. If you guys need help with this, or we want to get more involved with a system that can help you help more clients, serve more clients, step-by-step sales tools to integrate into your landscaping, hardscaping, or outdoor living business, that's what we do. This is a framework that we work off of, our sales tools. And a lot of what we're talking about here today in the mindset side plays directly into this, because you can be the best schmoozer out there and talk to people all you can all day long. But if you don't manage your inner game, if you can't manage your inner emotional game, and you secretly despise people but want to get money from them, there's going to be a constant uphill battle, because believe it or not, they can smell it. And with that being said, book a call down below. I'd love to talk to you about how to integrate great sales tools into your business and to help you with your mindset so that you can go from where you are now, potentially just surviving or getting closer to thriving, where you actually are looking back and you're looking at your life from a 35,000 foot view and not so stuck in the weeds just trying to pay bills. Let's build a world where 75% closing rate is normal. And let's build a world where husbands and wives can go home to their families each and every night and have weekends off, and not just physically be there, but emotionally be present with them as well, because you leave all that stuff that you're managing more purposefully now at work, and you show up there at home to be the best mom or dad you could possibly be. So guys, thanks for listening. Talk to you next week.